Richie, tell me about the day you took your first trade.
The day I took my first trade, my big homie hits me up and he's like, "Yo, you gotta buy Ethereum right now. You gotta buy Ethereum. You gotta buy Ethereum." It's like 2016. Ethereum was probably at like $5 to $10. And then I looked it up, started tracking it, and then I found out what Bitcoin was. I didn't much understand it, but I always kind of took his advice, and I was still 19 years old, so I was like, you know what? He never led me wrong, so let me just download Coinbase and buy it. And then I had waited actually till it went up to like maybe $60 and bought some more at 110, and then I got into Bitcoin at around 1800, and obviously from there it was the bull run since, up and down. And I've learned. I was in the game for like 3-4 years, came back and just learned the ups and downs of the game, but more so learned economics through blockchain, you know?
What similarities do you see between fighting and trading?
Similarities I see between fighting and trading would have to be consistency. I think consistency is key. I think composure is key. Obviously, to succeed in any field, you need intelligence. But you see the best traders and you see the best fighters with consistency and composure, sticking to a game plan. So when you have a trade active, let's just say you have your TPs, your take profits, and your stop losses based on how you trade, whether it's trends, news, charting, technology, however you trade, right? You got to have a planned route of attack, and I think it's the same thing in a fight. And much like the market, you're not going to be able to predict what your opponent's going to do. You're not going to be able to predict what the market's going to do. The only thing you can do is compose yourself and protect yourself the best that you can. I'm religious, so I say leave it in God's hands, but know you've done the work, and know you're going to execute your action and follow through with your game plan, and being able to adjust mildly while sticking to that game plan.
What would you say to people who haven't seen success yet, but they're still putting in the work every day?
I would say that I'm in the same boat as you. I would say that success is relative to where you want to be. 6 years ago, if you asked me the same question, I would tell you the same thing, and that's when I won my first world championship. I just won a title. I'm not in the UFC. I'm not a UFC champion. My mother's not retired yet, so once that happens, I'm gonna want a second belt. Once I open my school, I'm gonna want to open an academy. So there's always like Jim Carrey says, once you're an Academy Award winner, you want to be a second time. You go to sleep, you want to be a 3 time. So I just relate to that. And growing up, my mother always told me, always put me on to like The Secret, Energy. Always made me watch film. Always made me listen subconsciously. And Jim Carrey's when he won his second Academy Award speech, she made me watch. And another one that she made me watch was Matthew McConaughey when he won his Golden Globe, I believe. They asked him who his inspiration was and who his idol was, and he said himself in 5 years, because that's the person that he's never going to be able to reach and the person that he's never going to be able to obtain. And it's the highest standard that he could hold himself to. So that's truly what I believe.
If you had a conversation with one person in the world, who would it be?
Probably my mom. My mom and my dad, for sure. They're the closest to me. They told me everything. If I could have one last conversation with anyone before, let's just say, like, my life is over or something, I would definitely be my mom. She taught me most of what I know. Obviously, I inherited some good genes from my father, but my mom built a lot of knowledge base into me and invested into me. She quit her job, actually, when I was around 6 years old. And my dad worked full-time in the union as a laborer. And my mom raised me to be an athlete, and they would tell me every morning when my dad woke up at 5, he does this for me. He does this so I can have an opportunity to do things like be a creative, to do things like be a fighter, to go chase my dream and go chase generational wealth for my children. And my father gave me that opportunity. He grew up in the projects, and he gave me a middle-class life, and my mother gave me her full attention. And yeah, if I owe anything to anybody, it's them. So my mom would definitely be my last conversation, or if I could have a conversation with anyone, even right now, it would be my mom.
If you had the superpower, you could see into the future, would you ever want to do that or no?
Um,
Do you ever want to know what's going to happen next?
maybe in the short term, but not in the long term. And I would do it in the short term to predict strategy and to re-strategize myself. But in the long term, no, I wouldn't. I feel like that's God's role and that's His plan, and whatever His plan for me is. I would be cheating it if I had looked into the future. The other thing is, if I ended up more successful than I am, or less successful than I think I'm gonna be, it may change my daily habits, and it may change the person that I am in the now. And you hear a lot of people like Kanye West say, my presence is the present. You hear that as my presence, me being here is the present. But what they're really saying is, my presence, me being here, is the present. Like, it's the present to himself, that he's able to be in the present moment and give you everything that he has. So that's a big reason I think I'm successful across multiple verticals. But being in the here, being in the now, being in the present moment, and being dialed in is all I live for. I actually, the reason why I love fighting, and I used to love it so much in wrestling, was because it would put me into my flow state, and I didn't know how to control it. So it was like I was addicted to this feeling of, it's like my eyes sharpen. I don't know if you watch me fight, you see and you see what I'm method acting and doing these things, how like it's just, I'm a different person, and that was an uncontrollable thing for me. And then I learned through training, through putting myself in uncomfortable positions, through composure, through trading, through ups and downs of life, kind of how to dial that in. And yeah, that's why I love fighting so much, because that's the moment that I'm the most dialed in, and nothing else matters. Think about it. You're stepping into a cage with another man, right? You're fighting for your entire family. You're fighting for your life. You're fighting for if you have a wife, your children. You're fighting for yourself in that moment. And although you're doing all those things, there's only one thing that matters, bro. Beating the fuck out of this other guy and not getting your ass whooped. And in the moment, the only thing that matters is making sure I have my hand in this position, making sure I'm in a good stance, making sure I'm protected. Even though I'm fighting for all these things, at the same time you feel it on entrance, but in the fight, there's only one thing that matters, and that's that current moment, bro. And having that feeling is like is bliss, and it's a holy moment for me, and that's why I love fighting so much.
What's the first fight you ever got into?
Man, I grew up fighting a lot. On the streets since I was a kid, probably like 10 years old. Did you guys watch The Bachelor? You know Greg Grippo? He was in the finals of The Bachelorette. He was my brother's best friend growing up. He was like my third or fourth fist fight. And I remember I got into it with him, tackled. We didn't throw no punches, just wrestled each other into a stalemate. That's one I'll never forget. Another one is this kid Romeo was on the... Oh, I got two for you, okay. So this kid Romeo was on the bus or whatever. Talking. I was probably like 7th grade. We're like, all right, we're going to meet at the park. I'm like, all right, let's go meet at the park. I go home and I tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to go fight this kid. He's like, what are you doing with shorts on? Go get jeans so you don't scuff up your knees. Sends me jeans out, sends me out the door. I go fight the kid. I go whoop his ass, come back home. My dad's like, you whoop his ass? I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, good job. Another time, I played lacrosse, and I'm friends with the kid now, so I'm gonna withhold his name. But we didn't get along too much, and it was my first year lacrosse, and I was like a midfielder. Obviously, I'm very athletic, so like my first year ever playing lacrosse, I'm starting to start over everyone, and I'm really well. So it's easy to have an evil eye, or it's easy to get envious. So this kid is just like talking mad shit, and like he's a starter, he's a captain, whatever. It's my first year. They want me to go out and retrieve the ball and play midfield or whatever. And I would always tell my dad, but this kid would never fight me, right? So one day my dad had enough, so he's like, all right, get in the car. Drives to this kid's crib, right? My dad's like, you ready to fight him, right? I'm like, yeah. So my dad drives me to this kid's crib. We pull up to his crib. My dad, ding, knocks on the door and was like, your boy and my boy are fighting, right? He was like, we're going to settle it right here, and they're not going to have any problems after this. Your son's always coming home complaining to the coaches. My son's always coming home complaining. So let them settle it. And if they're not going to fight, then we're going to fight.
Damn. So he sent out his son?
So you better send your son out here before you get your ass whooped. And that's what my dad did when I was 13 years old, bro.
Damn.
My dad's a badass motherfucker. Joseph Lewis, bro. Cardinal McCarrick. St. Mary's South Amboy. South Amboy Projects. Like, my dad is OG, legendary where we're from, bro. He was a head basketball coach. Coached a bunch of players, and that's how he raised me. He was very stern. I come from a militant family. We have a militant approach in everything that we do. needless to say, the kid came out and said sorry and didn't want to fight me, and then me and my dad rode home, and
Too easy.
now it's a funny story to tell, right?
Alright. It's good, bro.